The stakes in this election could not be higher. It's the future of Minnesota. Our futures, all Minnesotans' futures, and the futures of all our children and our grandchildren. Yvonne's and my campaign was forged by the failures of the Republican and Independence Party governors over the last 20 years. My opponents say they don't want to talk about the past. Well, if governors of my party had been responsible for this state for the last 20 years, I wouldn't want to talk about the past either. There's an old saying that those who do not learn the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat its mistakes. And the mistakes of two Republican governors and an Independence Party governor are mistakes that we cannot afford to repeat in Minnesota again. Arnie Carlson and then Jesse Ventura cut income tax rates in this state in 1998 and again in 2000. And the richest Minnesotans received all three rate cuts, totaling 11%, 9%, and 8%. Now, if the Republican philosophy of government and economic growth were correct, they should have responded with propelling Minnesota forward, as Target and Best Buy believe. Instead, Minnesota went backward under Governor Plenty, as it would go further backward if that same philosophy were carried to a further extreme by Governor Tom Emmer or Governor Tom Horner. Minnesota under Governor Plenty has been in the bottom 10 states in personal income growth. It's been in the bottom 10 states in employment growth. As Yvonne pointed out, there are 200,000 more people living in Minnesota than when Tim Plenty became governor, and fewer people working in this state. And that is going backwards. That's going in the wrong direction. And if you're making more money in Minnesota, your income is higher. Thanks to Governor Plenty, you're paying less of your percent of your income in state and local taxes. Everyone else, property taxes have more than doubled in Minnesota, according to our state auditor, over the last decade. Property taxes last year were $3 billion higher for Minnesotans than they were when Tim Pawlenty took office. College tuitions are higher. We're the third highest state in the nation for our two-year public colleges, in the top 10 for our public universities in MnSCU. The tuition at the University of Minnesota is 50% higher than the state universities in the surrounding 4 states. Fees have gone up. All those tax burdens have fallen primarily and progressively on middle-income Minnesotans, working Minnesotans, and their families. Lower-income Minnesotans even worse. And it's fundamentally unfair. It's fundamentally wrong. Tom Emmer, Tom Horner think it's terrific. Yvonne and I think it's terrible. What's happened to our children and their grandchildren under these policies of the last decade? The future of our state. Well, according to the Minnesota Taxpayers Association, and for the record, that's not a liberal organization, the most recent year, Minnesota ranked 36th lowest of the states in the nation in our spending for public K-12 education. Remember, 25th would be average. We're down to 36th. We're 33rd in our spending among the states for higher education. Our people value education, but our governors don't. And just to set the record clear about all this, you'll hear about how government spending has increased. Minnesota ranks, again, according to the Minnesota Taxpayers Association, 31st among the states in total state and local government expenditures per $110,000 of personal income. We're 31st, we're below average. That's the failure. That's the state of Minnesota today. That's why the stakes are so high. Now, my campaign has been, and now Yvonne's and my campaign is based on a fundamental principle that the richest Minnesotans should pay their fair share of taxes. Income goes higher, and that's fantastic. That's the American dream. And as your income goes higher, you should pay a higher percentage of your income in taxes, not a lower percentage. case in Minnesota today. That's an American principle that's followed from Theodore Roosevelt, to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to Dwight David Eisenhower, to Bill Clinton. It's an American principle. The richest people have the most, who have benefited the most, earn the most, pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes than everyone else. It's a principle of the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party under Paul David Wellstone. It's a principle of Martin. Time of national and state economic distress and the fiscal crisis that we're facing today in Minnesota, if the richest Minnesotans won't pay their fair share of taxes, then our nation cannot succeed, and our state cannot succeed, and our children and grandchildren cannot succeed. We need revenues in this state to eliminate a $6 billion projected deficit for the next biennium. I didn't create that deficit, but if I'm governor, it's my responsibility to eliminate it, and to do so responsibly, to do so fairly, and to tell you and the people of Minnesota honestly, straightforward, dollars and cents, how I propose to do that if I'm elected governor. Says he's going to give us his plan next week. Tom Emmer says we'll get his plan sometime in the next century. But they both made it very clear that they don't want the richest Minnesotans, people making $1 million, or $10 million, or $100 million to pay 1 penny more in higher personal income taxes. Not a penny more. Instead, if you take the proposals they made so far, they want everybody else to pay more with higher property taxes, higher sales taxes, higher gasoline taxes, higher cigarette taxes. Everybody else is going to pay more in Minnesota so that the richest people in the state don't have to pay their fair share. And you know what? I think the richest people in Minnesota are better than that. I really know that. I spoke at the League of Greater Minnesota Cities the other day, and a woman came up to me afterwards. She said, you know, my husband and I had a successful small business last year. We earned $325,000. We can afford to pay more taxes for the future of Minnesota. When Barack Obama ran 2 years ago, and he promised the people of this country that he would raise taxes on the richest people in this country, people making over $250,000 a year, he won the election by that, in that income range, by more than 2 to 1. More than he won the election generally. That says to me people are better than that. I think most Minnesotans who can afford to pay more taxes, who are in the top 10%, are willing to do so if they're called to do so fairly among all of us for the sake of the future of Minnesota. I think and on November 2nd, we'll find out. This election, and the reason we need those revenues, is for a commitment to the future of our state. Yvonne spelled it out well. It's a commitment to education, to better schools, to smaller class sizes, to restoring 5-day school weeks, to making college tuition affordable for working Minnesota families and their children. It's about empowering teachers to teach. You know, I taught 2 years in a public school in New York City, my first job out of college. I've always said it was the toughest job I ever had. Those of you who devote your careers to education and do it well have my utmost respect and admiration. And if I'm governor, you'll have my support. There will no longer be bashing of teachers. There will be no longer blaming teachers. There will be no longer cutting down. Governor, there'll be no more bashing of public employees. There will no more suggesting to public employees that they take unpaid furloughs. Well, the governor of Minnesota takes paid furloughs every week to go up to New Hampshire or Iowa or something like that. better highways and public transit. We're investing in better environmental protection. We're going to invest, we're going to create, and I'm going to work with Senator John Marty to pass universal health care for this state and make it affordable. My opponents think that, having United Healthcare make over $1 billion in profits every quarter is a great idea. Having them by their own report pay for every healthcare premium dollar they take in, only 82 cents for healthcare is just fine. We'll reform a little bit. They use reform like a slogan, not a strategy. But you can't change the basic economics that if you're only paying 82 cents of every healthcare premium dollar for healthcare, you're making healthcare unaffordable. You're making health insurance unaffordable. Medicare is far from perfect, but it pays 97 cents of every healthcare dollar for healthcare. It's a lot better than what people, as Yvonne said, you have to pay $29,000, or like the woman who's a clerk at a school in rural Minnesota said, I'm a single mother of 3 children. It costs me $20,000 to insure the 4 of us through our school program plan. I only make $18,000 a year.
That's right.
So she has to insure herself, leave her children uninsured, and hope and pray that they don't get sick. In Minnesota, in America, in 2010, that is fundamentally wrong. And we're going to change that. We're going to work with jobs. I worked for the #1 jobs governor Minnesota's had in my lifetime, and that was Rudy Purpose. And he believed you could put the public sector to work in partnership with the private sector, and you could create jobs. And we had more jobs created under Rudy Purpose than we've had on any of the 3 governors to follow him. And I could go on and on. For the next 73 days, I will. In a democracy, you and all the people of Minnesota will decide where we go from there. I need your help and support. Yvonne needs your help and support over these next 73 days. I need your enthusiastic commitment, please, to work together to win this election. The DFL party, we've had great meetings this week. I thank leaders of the party and those who are working on it. We had a privilege gathering yesterday, a picnic at our campaign headquarters, box lunches for 80 or so are just really incredibly dedicated young men and women who are going to work, many of them their first campaign. Disappointed in last Tuesday's result, I understand that. I accept that. But almost all of them now are willing to roll their sleeves and work hard again. And I told them, they'll experience something that I've had the good fortune to experience that they'll remember for their lifetimes. As I remember the very first time I worked on a campaign in 1976. I was on the legislative staff of that. Before a lot of you were born. Most of them were born. Boulder, Mondale, got picked by Jimmy Carter, went down to Atlanta, worked day and night, 20 hours a day and night, every Saturday and Sunday. And on November 2nd, the same day as this year, I got to experience the most incredible feeling in the world. When the people of a democracy voted and elected the man that I supported to office, to serve the people. And I told them that will be an experience that they will remember all their lives. And even those of us who have been involved in these campaigns before, time and again, it's something that's unforgettable. It's something that's indescribable. It's the greatest thrill in the world except for the birth of my 2 children. And it's the most humbling and honoring experience of a lifetime. That people are willing to entrust. Not me, not Yvonne, but all of us. Entrust our DFL party. Because it won't be just us. It'll be all of you who will point at other people, and independents, Republicans too, but the best people possible to serve in state government. People believe in the missions of these agencies. People believe in government. People want to make government better. All of us, given the opportunity to lead this state in a better direction, for a better future, for a better Minnesota. I ask you to join with Yvonne and myself in that cause, in that crusade, to make the next 4 years, God willing, the people of Minnesota willing, the next 8 years, a place where we turn this state around and set Minnesota